Hey guys, I'm shooting this first half after I'd already shot the second half, so that's the reason that I greet you twice in this video. But after I'd shot that second half, I decided that I wanted to explain things a little bit more than I did. So first, I wanted to explain that when it comes to tempos, the number that you're looking at is basically about how many seconds you want going through that movement. Some people, when they use the number 0, they'll mean an explosive movement. Or sometimes they'll use an exclamation point. Some people use the letter X, but I'm not a fan of that because if you're showing 4 sets of 6, 4x6, that might get a little bit confusing. But just to give you some simple examples, let's look at a squat, a bench, and a deadlift. When you're bench pressing, you start with your arms outstretched in front of you. This first number right here is when you would be lowering that bar to your chest. So if it's a 1, you're lowering at a usual speed. If it's 3 seconds or 5 seconds, you're lowering it over the course of 3 or 5 seconds. In a squat, it would be you slowly sitting down into that seated position. A deadlift, however, because it starts out on the floor, you're starting out in the seated position already, so that first number is going to be you standing up with the weight in your hands. The second number in a bench would be the bar being at your chest. So if it's 3 seconds, it's you pausing with that bar hovering just barely over the chest. In a squat, it would be you holding that seated, squatted position. And in a deadlift, it would be you standing upright with the bar in your hands. Obviously, there's not very much tension up at the top. The third number in a bench press would be you pushing that bar away from the chest. So if it's 1 second, you're pushing at a usual speed. If it's like 10 seconds, it's you slowly pushing that up over 10 seconds. Same with the squat. It's you standing up from that squatted position. So if it's 0 seconds, it's you doing it as quickly and explosively as possible. If it's a 1, it's your usual speed. And in a deadlift, it would be you lowering that bar back down to its rest position, or in some cases, lowering it just short of touching so that you're hovering right off of the ground. And then this fourth number is you returning back to your initial position. So a bench press, that's you with your arms straight out. With a squat, it's you standing back up at the top, and with a deadlift, it's you with the bar back on the ground. Again, each of these numbers is going to determine how fast or slow this exercise or this portion of the rep is actually done. So it is something that's important to look for when it comes to any kind of program design. But with that said, here comes the second half of this video, where I will actually show you guys some video specifics. Hey guys, so I wanted to explain a little bit about the 4-number tempo system that I use. I know some people use a different order or a slight variation of this, but I wanted to explain why I use it. When it comes to a squat, if you tell somebody what a negative and a concentric and a pause are in a rep, it's pretty obvious. You can see that that's a 3-second negative, it's 3 seconds down, there's a 3-second pause, and then a 1-second contraction coming up to the top. But when it comes to exercises like pulls, it can become a little bit more confusing. For each of these exercises, I will have the tempo for that specific rep that I'm doing, just so you can see some specific examples and changes for each exercise. But again, the main reason that I use it the way that I do is because if somebody doesn't know the difference between a concentric or an eccentric or an isometric, or some people call them positive and negative reps, they're not necessarily going to understand how to read these numbers. They're going to have to really spend some time thinking about every single one instead of, well, where's my rest position? That's the beginning position. Then this first number is, what would be the initiating movement. The second number would be the pause of wherever that movement goes to next. This third number would be whatever the next movement would be, and then that fourth number would be that next pause. When it comes to pulling exercises for people, it tends to get a little bit more confusing because the starting position changes, so they have to be a little bit more aware of their starting position and understand what these numbers are going to mean. Personally, what I found with clients is that when you just have it as this standard where you're beginning and where the lift is ending order, it tends to be a little bit easier. If you look at this deadlift, for example, the starting position is at the bottom. You start off with a bar sitting on the ground. Seeing this negative as the third number makes a little bit more sense because it's the third part of the movement. You've got the lift, you have the pause at the top, and then you have that 3-second negative down. You'll also see that with this exercise, I do pause at the bottom with it in the air.